Hi, everyone. Good morning. Happy Friday. I am here today with Mariska Botha. She is an attorney, and we are going to be discussing how to get your unwilling ex to pay maintenance. And I know that this has been such a hot topic on my Facebook page before, and I've actually been horrified at some of the responses I've seen with moms struggling along with no maintenance or ridiculously low maintenance and constantly fighting in and out of court. So first things first, I want to remind everybody that you can win a free family law consultation with Mariska. We will be announcing the winner at the end of the video. Mariska, thank you so much for joining us today. And can you introduce yourself and just tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Mariska Botha, and I'm 29. I live in Durbanville. I am currently unmarried, and I have no children, but I have a very big passion for children. So I started my LLB, and I went to UNISA, and I'm currently busy with a course on family law mediation, which should be done very soon. Then I will be a registered family law mediator. I have done 2 years of articles of training in law, and then I also have been working for post-admission 3 years. I have High Court appearance in the Western Cape, which makes a lot of work a lot easier. But currently I'm working for courts attorneys, and in the firm I specialize in family law, personal injury, and debt collections. Overall, all civil types of work. I don't really like criminal that much. And yeah, that's a little bit more about me.
Perfect. That sounds very professional.
Politically correct.
Yeah, no, because I just stay at home and I make cool videos and I write about breastfeeding and stuff. So, yeah, it sounds very professional. I used to work in an office and stuff, but that was a very long time ago.
Well, at the moment, I don't work in an office at all. I actually work from home, and I guess you can call me a virtual lawyer. You only see me when you need to. Otherwise, there's no offices involved. I travel. I guess my car's my office now, and that's what the pandemic taught us. So it makes a lot of things a lot easier. And cuts expenses.
Okay, perfect. So for anybody that needs to contact Mariska, she's currently working for courts attorneys, but she's also branching out on her own, as I understand it. So
in future.
Yeah, in the future. So if you need legal advice or any help, you can contact Mariska. There's her phone number, there's her email address, and I will be adding a blog post to my website based on this video. So all of her information will be on the blog post and all of the questions and advice that she's going to give us today. So first things, who has a right to maintenance?
Well, there's quite a few people that have right to maintenance. We have spouses, ex-spouses, children, elderly parents, and other family members have a right to maintenance. I think the most important question is who has the responsibility to pay it.
Boom, there's my banner. Go for it.
So the person who has the responsibility to pay the maintenance is exactly those people as well. Your spouses, ex-spouses, children, yes, have a responsibility as well. Elderly parents and other family members. If you cannot maintain yourself, there are rules in law that say that there are family members and people around you that actually have a duty to support you. And I don't think a lot of people actually know that.
So when I'm old and decrepit and I have no money and I need my bum wiped and I need somewhere to stay, I can reverse what's been happening now and I can go stay with my kids and they can take my nap.
Yes, you can get them back.
Moms, take note. Revenge is on the way. We just got to go another 50 years or so and we're going to be there. Perfect.
Yes.
So what I'm also interested in is, I've seen a lot of fights where the man doesn't pay maintenance and then the woman says, well, you can't see your children. What is the connection between child maintenance and visitation rights?
In our law, there is no connection between the two. So you cannot withhold maintenance just because he's not or she's not letting you see the children, or he's not letting you see the children, vice versa, depending on where the kids are. Maintenance cannot be withheld on that regard. It's completely been split. I know a lot of people do this. I would completely advise you not to do this. You have to pay maintenance. Everybody is, if you have a child, you are deemed able to look after the child. And yeah, if you withhold visitation, then you can be held guilty of an offense and liable of a conviction. So you can be fined or you can be imprisoned for a period not exceeding 1 year. So that's a pretty scary procedure. You don't want any sheriffs or policemen showing up at your door and telling you that you have a criminal charge against you for keeping the child away from the parent.
Yeah, wow.
From
So
the other parent.
that's a biggie.
Yes, that's quite a big one.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And then I would love to know, how is maintenance calculated?
Okay, so there's many different types of maintenances, and I would like to focus particularly on spousal maintenance or on children's maintenance. In my line of work, we do a lot of child maintenance because that is the one that obviously most people fight about. A lot of people don't pay spousal maintenance anymore. But it does happen occasionally. So when it comes to calculating maintenance, there's a lot of things that needs to be kept in mind. So, for instance, the principles of having to pay maintenance is this is a lifelong right for a child. So we have to keep in mind the primary focus is to keep the child going to school and fed and, all your basic safety principles of keeping them physically safe, first and foremost. But obviously you do hope that the child gets self-supporting after a while when they get out of school, sometimes by 18, 22, whatever these ages that come around, and the child no longer needs the support. But that doesn't mean that they don't have a right to it anymore. So do keep that in mind as well. A child can come at any point in their life and ask for support. So when we start at the basis of how do we start calculating maintenance? See, most parents look at the salary and they think, okay, cool, so all my deductions have gone off and my debit orders and I've paid my UIF and I've paid my tax and I've paid my medicals, and at the end of the month, after buying all the food and everything, let's see what I've got left. Now I need more. And that's unfortunately not how the courts look at it. So maintenance is based on the child's needs, and it must be practical. And it needs to work in the real world. So you contribute in proportion to your income. You use your gross salary after tax, after UIF, and workman's compensation, but before pension and medical aid, because obviously both parents might have these things. But yeah, so that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But there's different options. And in my opinion, I would say try to get to a round table where you and your ex can have a chat about, listen, I make half of what you make, so I'm going to contribute in proportion to that ratio. So if one makes 15,000 and the other one makes 30,000, then you contribute on a ratio of 1 to 2, because otherwise it's not fair. You can also look at some of the expenses being on I almost want to call it a parts. So 2 parts for an adult, 1 part for a child. So if you're taking your rent, you would say, well, it's just me and the child in the house. So we have 3 parts, and 1 part would be for the child and 3 parts would be for me. Some people work it according to, I have a room, the child has a room. But if you have 3 kids and they're all living in 1 room, then the maintenance gets split even further. So everything is really intricate to your special needs in your circumstances. Other options that you also have is working according to a percentage, saying, the child only lives with me 25% of the year. So let's take the yearly expenses and divide it on a percentage basis. So it really does come down to what works for you. And I would suggest taking the time to sit down and talk to your ex and or to the father if they're not going through a divorce, or the mother, sorry, and just say, listen, this is what's going to work for my budget, what works for your budget, and let's come to an agreement together. Because a lot of the time, if you go to court, the court's going to tell you what works in their mind, and that might not work for your situation. And then it's forced upon you. because then you have a court order, and there's really that makes things a lot more difficult. So I would suggest trying to mediate, but if you can't mediate it, then these are certain options that you can have a look at. But I would also obviously suggest going to somebody to help you calculate these things, and just to make sure that it's fair, and otherwise they will drag you to court then anyway.
So here's a question that I'm interested in. So say, for example, like my husband and I now are married, and we are mostly happily married. We are living together in one home, and both my children are in a private school. We have a certain level of, I mean, we're not rich or anything, but we manage, we get by. And what would happen, for example, if we get divorced? And can I now say, I want my children to stay in a private school? It's very important to me. Or will the court say, well, your standard of living has just dropped? How would that kind of play out?
Well, that's a very good question. There is previous case law that states that once you go through a divorce, you cannot expect the same standard of living, because practically, if you think about it, there's two households, there's two costs, there's two fridges, if you were living in one household with one car, now you have two households and you need two cars. So you can't keep the same standard of living, unfortunately, and you cannot expect that standard if, your salary hasn't drastically increased. So if the children were in Kiro, it is obviously expected that they, get kept there, because the divorce is traumatizing enough. But if it's not possible to keep them there, just because of, rising costs now, all of a sudden, both parents have to get, pay rent separately. It's not together anymore. If you can't do it, then you can't do it. It really does come down to, what are you able to pay? What are you able to contribute? They do look at, your ability to, what's your income? They look at your, it goes proportionately to your income. It goes to, yes, what you were used to, but what can you afford now? You can't, like the Afrikaans saying goes, you kan nie bloed van 'n klip aftap nie. So, you can't just squeeze, money out of where there is no money. So yeah, you have to really keep in mind that things are changing. And if you're used to wearing certain types of jewelry and getting certain holidays, and if you're used to, certain type of parties, these things need to now be cut down, and really, it needs to be discussed in the end. It's a scary topic. But yes, if the children were in Kiro, it would be expected that they stay in Kiro.
If it's possible. Okay.
Yeah, if it's possible.
Totally.
That's unfortunately the thing about family laws. It's a little bit messy. Every situation needs to be looked at individually. Every situation needs to be assessed. So there's no such thing as, okay, cool, we're going to collect debt here. Here's your summons. Here's your this. Here's your this. Give me this proof, and here we go. It's not like that. Family law, yes, they've got precise rules, and they've got some golden rules and stuff that they look at, but those things can be changed, because the court has the discretion to say, hey, but listen, this guy's just lost his job. We have to adjust that a little bit. So the courts want the person called upon to provide support to be able to provide that support. And that support is obviously, you have to look at the requirements of the child. So the child needs to go to Kiro, the child needs school clothes, but then you also have to look at the other side. Is the other person able to pay? So yeah, there's always that weight, if I can, that scale, to make sure that everything is equal.
Yeah, not something easy to navigate. So I want to know now, I think this is what a lot of moms want to know. When your ex is not paying maintenance and is unwilling to pay, so not necessarily unable, but unwilling to pay, what steps can you take to get that maintenance?
So when it comes to getting maintenance out, like I said earlier, the best idea is to get into an agreement that you never get into this position. So you get a parenting plan, you talk about it before you get divorced, and you get that agreement on paper, please, not oral agreements. You get these agreements on paper, and you discuss it, because then you never get yourself into this situation. But unfortunately, this does happen, that the parents just don't pay, or they complain that it's too much. I've heard it all the excuses. But yes, the most important thing to remember is that, and step number one is, when that line comes of I'm not paying, just to remind this other party that the maintenance is not for you as the parent, it is for the child. It's the child's right. The child has a right to payment, to maintenance. And parents receiving maintenance is only a custodian. So you are only acting on behalf of the child. It's the child's money, but we're obviously not going to give the child. We have to help a little bit. Okay. So fathers are presumed to be able to pay. So when that line comes of I can't pay or I'm not going to pay, there are ways to say, well, listen here, you are presumed to be able to pay. If you can't pay, go to court and prove it. Bring your expenses, bring your budgets, and prove it to the court. Up and until that point, there's a claim for maintenance. They have to pay. Unmarried or married at the time. If you didn't ever get married, you were just in a relationship, the father has to pay, or mother. Okay. So I would once again suggest that there are free alternatives. I know that obviously a lot of South Africans out there in the current pandemic, they can't afford to just approach an attorney or a private mediator and say, hey, help me calculate my maintenance. Let me calculate how much money I have and need, but I can't pay you. So there are free options. You can go to the family advocate. You can go to Bedisa. There's maintenance court. There's family court. These are free options to you. They're time consuming, but they're free. So once again, have a round table, bring your proof of direct expenses for the children, which is things like school fees and school clothes, textbooks. Those are direct expenses, but also your shared expenses like rent and water and electricity. These are things that the kids are also consuming a bit of, but will make part of your maintenance claim. So get those expenses together. So when you agree to what needs to be paid by the other party, get a court order. Just make it easy for yourself. Because once there's a court order in place, so for instance, now you've gone through the whole child maintenance steps of going to maintenance court, and you've got your court order in place. If he doesn't pay, you have a criminal case against him for contempt of court. So it's very, very easy. You take your court order, you take your bank, you take your proof, you take your WhatsApps of him saying, I'm never paying again, or her saying, I'm not paying you another cent. And you go to the police and you say, listen, I've got my court order and he's in contempt of court. They're not paying. And the police will help you and they'll open up a case, but they won't investigate it. So you will have to, you'll probably have to do a lot of forceful discussions with the police to actually open up this matter in the first place, because there are civil options to getting that money back. But it is a criminal offense to be in contempt of court. And then you just tell them, that's the case I want to open. He's in contempt of court. He needs to come and explain to the court why he's not paying. But very importantly, I do want to just mention that claim for that maintenance never falls away. It doesn't ever disappear. So you always have that claim for maintenance against that person. So just let it run up. If he says, listen, I've lost my job, I can't pay, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden that month's pay isn't due to you. It's still due to you. He needs to pay it next month or the month after that. If in a year's time he inherits a lot of money, you have a claim against that money to get that money back for you. So number one, the criminal side, normally if you bring the police in, people start paying. They get a bit of a fright. So you can also ask the police to just assist you. Can they drive with you just to go and have a chat with this person and, show them the court order again that they have to pay? That to me sounds like a really nice, forceful way to scare somebody really well, if I can put it that way. But it's not always the most effective, and the police might not help you at all. So I'm not 100% sure if that would be everybody's remedy. And obviously it's very scary also to have to step into the criminal side of things. But your civil remedies are a lot more useful, a lot more effective, but they are very time consuming, and unfortunately probably not what anybody wants to hear. They are a little bit more expensive. So you can approach the courts and see if they would help you, but I would once again suggest get an attorney to help you. Your civil remedies are, number one, you can get a warrant of execution against his property or her property. So this is an application to court. So yes, you can approach the court, ask them to help you, but I would just suggest get an attorney, get somebody to help you set up that paperwork to make sure that's done properly. It's in your best interest to make sure that it's done right the first time. Otherwise, you'll just be wasting a lot of time. You're still having to drive up and down to the court. That's going to waste money for you in any way. So once the court order is issued, if the court agrees, okay, fine. Obviously, there is money due. Then the sheriff takes all of his assets and then they go and sell them on auction. Is this an effective option? Probably not. Because on auction, we all know you can get some real good deals on auction, and it's normally sold at a fraction of the price. But it is effective in getting a nice lump sum. If you are owed, let's say, 50,000, go sell the car. You get 30,000, at least you got 30,000, boom, it's there. And you can, start paying off your debts or whatever. But also do keep in mind, for example, if he is, let's say, running a gardening services and you want to take that bucky that he is working with, you can't. It doesn't work like that. So you have to... The court's just going to say, well, we can't sell his bucky. How is he going to generate income if he is, doesn't have a bucky? Then he's not going to be able to pay maintenance in any way. So the other thing to keep in mind is then the sheriff also takes their cut of their fees. So you might say, oh, yay, it got sold for 50, but then the sheriff will come in and take 5,000 for themselves or 10,000 fees or whatever. I'm not 100% sure different sheriffs, depending on how long they keep the assets or whatever, different fees. So it is effective to a degree, but it could not work out in your favor. For example, if they have no property, then you would be going up against a person of straw, is how we like to state it. So it's just say, this person has nothing. What, we're going to go sell the couch? Are we going to go sell the cat? Unfortunately, you do get those options where the sheriff comes in and they say he's got nothing. He's got a couch worth 300 and a TV worth 1,000, and that's all you're going to get. Then you've gone through all of those expenses. So make sure that you know what you want to attach and that there is something I want to call hefty or expensive to attach, like a car or jewelry or something like that, or from her. So
I have a question. So
yes.
If I have an ex-husband and I want to get money out of him and he's got a house or car that can be attached and sold. So I'm owed 50,000 Rand and then the car gets sold. I get my 50,000 Rand. Now I need to pay the sheriff 5,000 Rand. I owe you 10,000 Rand. Now I'm sitting there with 35,000 Rand when I should be getting 50 out. Mm-hmm. Can I sue him for that?
Yeah, costs are always included. It will be part of the court order.
Okay, so I get my 50,000 Rand. I can then go and say, I paid 5 grand to the sheriff. I paid 10 grand to my lawyer. Now you need to pay me that. And if you don't pay me that and I have to use my lawyer again, then you're going to get more fees. Can I do that?
Yes. Well, your court order, and if you have an attorney, they will include all of these things. They will say, listen, costs are for the defendant, whoever property needs to be attached, and then that will be all included in your court order. But if it will cover those costs is a different scenario. So yes, it will be there, but if the car is sold for 50 and you are owed 50, then you already know, I'm not going to get my full 50, but at least I'm getting a portion of it, and he can pay the rest off on a monthly basis or something like that. But yeah, so I think the next option is emolument attachment order. And that is where you go, once again, application to court, and the court issues an order where the respondent or the defendant's salary is attached. So then you order his boss on a garnishee order to pay those costs, or that directly to you, to pay your monthly maintenance order that comes straight off the salary. So it's like a UIF deduction or tax deduction. He has no say on it. It needs to be deducted. And those are another great option. And it normally sorts out most scenarios, except if he except if he works for himself. Then that's not going to work very well. Or obviously if he doesn't have a job, or if he loses his job, you're back to square one where you have to look at your other options. But I know a lot of people have these type of orders, and it's just, you never have to talk about it again because it gets paid every month and it's done, and you don't have to fight about, oh, you didn't pay on time. It's just clean cut, and it does happen. But once again, not always effective. So make sure that you choose the option that fits for you. The third option, which is very lovely as well, is if you get a warrant of attachment of debt. So for example, I owe you 50,000, and now your husband comes in and says, okay, cool, well, she owes me for maintenance for some other crazy reason. And now the court orders me to pay that 50,000 to you instead of paying it, to him instead of paying it to you, so that he can get that monthly, or if I pay it once off, you can get that money from me, and you know that it's due to you. That's also, once again, a lovely option, and could be a nice way if you know that there's a nice sum of money coming, that you can get that maintenance paid. But do you know that there's money? Are you sure that there's money? If there's not really, then you've started investigating into an option that doesn't actually exist. So yeah, lots of different options.
That also sounds a bit like brutal, So you're watching your ex's Facebook page, you see his dad does, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's brutal.
That is exactly what it is. You would, and you'd have to do it very fast before, for instance, in that case, where money is coming and it's coming fast, you'd have to bring that application very, very quickly to get that money attached. But yeah, then you have other options, like you can go and liquidate his assets. Once again, just attach everything and say that he's not paying. You can sell everything. But very important things that I do want to also mention is that just because he gives up his job doesn't mean that he doesn't owe the maintenance. So like I said earlier, just because he doesn't pay 1 month because he's lost his job doesn't mean that he doesn't owe that month. So let's say if he's paying you 1,000 Rand, which is pathetic in my opinion, but let's say that that's all he can afford and he's paying 1,000 Rand, she's paying 1,000 Rand to you, and they lose their job and they're like, oh, well, or they quit their job, I don't know, to be spiteful. That doesn't mean that they don't owe that 1,000 Rand. It just gets added with interest to your
on this one now. So say, for example, my husband loses his job and he's supposed to be paying me 5 grand a month and he's not working for 3 months. That 15,000 Rand a month, he still has to pay. So he gets a new job. He's then got to continue paying the 5 grand a month, and he's got to figure out a way to catch up on that backlog.
Yeah, so then you can enter into agreement saying, okay, listen, you haven't paid for 3 months, you owe me a certain amount of money, and it's run up some interest, of course, as well. And so you can pay me off 200 Rand a month extra because maybe you can't afford more. He'll be paying for a very long time, but it needs to be paid off. And once again, you can keep I almost want to say an Excel spreadsheet between the two of you saying, this is the amount that comes for the current, every month, and then this is the amount that you're paying off, and this is how it's going to run up until you've paid it off. So so that they can see, just like any other debt or credit that you take from somebody else, that you can see how much interest are you actually paying in the end. But yeah, no, that money is always owing to you, and you can, even after the child is 18, you can go and get that money. And you still have a right to get that money paid back to you because it's an expense that you technically paid. So that's always due to you.
Okay, I have another question, and this is very relevant to a lot of conversations I've had with friends and on my page as well. So I divorced my husband. I've got 2 children. My ex pays me 5,000 Rand a month for 10 years. Everything's going great. Now he meets another lady. He gets married. He has 3 children. He says, I can't pay you 5 grand a month because I've now got to cover 3 more children. I can pay you 1,000 rand a month. What
Yes.
happens there?
So, first of all, there has this term of feathering the nest. Hasn't always been looked at, but the courts have recently or of late been more they agree that now that there's more children, your maintenance needs to be recalculated. So let's say there's now a new child, then the maintenance needs to be calculated all from over again because there's these extra expenses. But yeah, sorry, I'm not 100% sure if I understand where the question is going, but what I do want to just touch on is that step parent cannot be approached for money. So for instance, let's say now you've gotten married, you've recalculated your maintenance contribution in accordance to now there's 3 children and not just 2. So what happens is your maintenance contributions is obviously then changed a little bit. Once again, looking at what the child's needs are in accordance to your ability to pay, but that step parent will not be responsible for paying any maintenance at all. Step parents don't have a duty of support towards step children. But I do want to mention that if you are going to be getting married in community of property and you know that your soon-to-be spouse has got previous children, and that there's maintenance, and yes, maybe he's paying it now, or maybe you know that he's not, red flag. But if you know that there is maintenance being paid towards children, that joint estate can be held responsible for arrears maintenance if you are married in community of property, because that becomes his estate and you're joined to it, unfortunately. But the claim doesn't fall away, so his estate is held responsible, and you are part of that estate all of a sudden because you are in community of property, and then you will be liable for those arrear maintenance payments. So please be careful when you get married in community of property.
Oh, wow, that's scary.
Yes.
That didn't answer my question because, so basically what I was saying is like, if I've got children and I'm married, I get divorced, my husband pays 5 grand a month, and then he gets married and has more children with somebody else. Can my maintenance drop from 5 grand to like 1 grand because suddenly he's got a new family and that's now his first priority?
He's not allowed to just do that. No, it needs to be calculated. So, but technically it can drop, yes, because his ability to pay is now less because there's another child that has a duty of support. So technically, he would need to follow the correct procedures to have it changed. He cannot just tell you, oh, I'm changing it now. Especially, this is why I'm saying those court orders are just really wonderful for you, especially if there is a court order in place. He cannot just decide, okay, now I'm going to make it less. But he can approach a court and say, okay, I have a new baby on the way. These are my pregnancy expenses. These are the new child's expenses, and this is my income. The income hasn't changed. But, there's this new child. So, yes, then the court can apportion it according to, according to the new child's needs and make sure that it's a fair split of money between all the children.
Okay, so in the same light, if I get divorced and I'm getting a certain amount of maintenance and I get remarried and I have more children, I can then say I've got more expenses as well. Can I then claim more maintenance?
We would have to split that. Are we talking about spousal maintenance or are we talking about children's maintenance? Okay, but on that note, spousal maintenance would fall away as soon as you get remarried. So please keep that in mind. So if you have one of those wonderful spousal maintenance agreements where you are being paid any sort of amount for any time period, be it life or just a short payment of 2 years or a year or 6 months, and you do happen to get married again, then that would fall away. But when it comes to the children, no, you cannot claim money from the father or the mother of your children for children that are not theirs. So if you married, you have more children, then the father or the mother of that child, if it's you, then it would be the father, but then the father of that child would be liable for the maintenance on that specific child. But you cannot ask your previous spouse or the father or the mother of your from a previous relationship for the two kids that do have a maintenance claim. You can't ask them to pay for a child that is not theirs, or to contribute to your monthly expenses. So, but if you do get remarried, then obviously a new duty of support is created, and your new spouse needs to look after you. And then it goes on from there again, and the whole circle starts again.
Wow. This sounds really complicated.
It is, which is why I just really do urge people, take the time to go and get assistance. So try to find out as much as you possibly can. Google is your friend. If you know what to look up, try to look it up, but then take your questions, pay an attorney for an hour, and then just run through those questions so that you can go to a court and say, no, this is not allowed. Or I know I have a right to this, but what is the application called? How do I proceed with this? What forms must I fill in? What proof does the court want? And a lot of the times, if you just go to the court, they will help you. You tell them, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a member of the public, and I have a few questions. They will help you. They're very assisting. But on that note, please make sure that you know which court to go to. Make sure that you, if you are busy with a divorce in the High Court, get your maintenance sorted out through the High Court. It might cause a little bit of a cost implication, but if you're there, get it done, because the High Court is faster. If you're in the regionals and you're getting divorced, then make sure that your maintenance is part of your order. Put it in your parenting plan. Just make sure that it's written down, because the he said, she said thing is very, very, very difficult to prove. And as soon as that fight comes up of, I want to get a divorce, then all those wonderful promises that are made, we're never going to break up, but if we do, I will pay for everything. Where's the proof? The court's going to look at you and say, also, this sounds like a wonderful agreement, but you have no proof. And obviously, the other party is not going to come and agree. And if they do, then you have no issue. Then they must just pay maintenance.
I think something interesting that you said to me privately, but not in this video, which I think was fantastic, is you recommended that when you do a prenup, you actually include a parenting plan. So
yes,
before you get married, you prepare for divorce, and you also prepare for what happens with children. And I think that's fantastic, because rather than fight it out when you get a divorce, everything is already there.
It is, apologies. It is a really, really good idea to have a sit down and actually talk about what happens when we break up, because once again, it also shows you some red flags about if you should be marrying this person. But having those things in place about when we get divorced, I actually agree to, joint visitation week. But then it also comes down to, I also agree to paying you maintenance, and I agree that whatever the cost is at that time, I will pay half the school, I'll pay half of this, or I will pay in a portion, in proportion to my income, I will pay you these amounts. And it really does, you sort it out there. I always tell my clients that when we're doing these prenups, these antenuptials, I'm just saying, listen, we're going to talk about it for now, and you walk out the door and you don't talk about it again. It's done. It's like your will and testament. It's sorted out and it's done. We're not going to look at it again. We're not going to think about those circumstances, because it's sad and it can start fights and it can but at least then it's sorted out. So having a sort of a parenting plan, if we both pass away, yes, there's no kids now, but who's going to look after the kids then? Your maintenance, life policies made out to the children, who's going to look after the money, and you'd actually be surprised how many parents don't actually want the other spouse to be put in charge of the money for the children, which I find very strange, but each to their own. And make sure that they're aware of that, that you've got those maintenance claims put in place. And yeah, then you also know, hey, listen, this person is fighting with me already about maintenance for a child. Is this the correct person to be having? Sorry, but is this the correct person to be having a child with?
Yeah.
Because you have to see how they handle these things and how they think about their money and their income. And no, it's not yours anymore. It's now ours. It's joint. Even if you're not getting married in community of property, there is still a union. So, you have to do things together. And I do like the idea of it, but it is a bit of an expense, and weddings are quite expensive in its own. So it's a wonderful piece of paper to have beforehand, but it could also just be a wonderful conversation to have beforehand, to make sure
I
that
think
you
a divorce is expensive too. I think if our wedding is expensive, I think a divorce is probably a lot more so. I don't know. I haven't had one.
I
But
think
it can be quite pricey.
Yeah, no, divorces can be pricey if you're going to fight. If you're going to sit down and mediate, you can save yourself a lot of time, a lot of expenses. Just sit down, have a chat, come to a settlement agreement, have an attorney present or a mediator, but once again, just get that maintenance on paper, so that you have something to work off of. And yeah, don't get bullied. If you feel like you might be receiving false information, go get a second opinion, because every attorney is also going to be acting in the best interests of their client. So you have the right, even if you're not going to oppose the maintenance or going to oppose the divorce or something, get a second opinion and just find out, hey, listen, is this in my best interests? What am I actually signing on for? Do the kids actually need this? Do I actually need to pay for them to have helicopter rides to school? I can't afford it anymore. Then have that second opinion and get that information.
Perfect. Awesome. I think we need to cross over now to our questions. So I just need to scroll to the top and have a look here. There was one here. This is Charlotte. She's asking, why would the father get any form of right to his kids if he doesn't contribute financially, as well as to any form of decision making, if the children have no bond or connection with their father?
So, unfortunately, our law, there's certain rules that are just set rules. Even if there's no bond, I think I would just want to say, let's start there. The kid has a right to maintenance, and a kid has a right to care and contact, and a kid has a right to guardianship. So these are the children's rights. They do not form part of the parents' rights. So no matter what, the court is going to say that, yes, he needs to contribute financially, but he also has the right to see his child, because the child has a right to see them. I obviously am not saying if the child has no connection with the parent, then no, you can't just come pick up the child and see them for a weekend. You need to phase in, come over once during the week, once over the weekend, bring a toy, bring a board game, sit and play, let the child meet you, let the child get to know you again. But then obviously that would also show you how important it is to the other parent. Call them, WhatsApp call, video calls. Kids love these things. It's fun. It's technology, and all of a sudden they can play on mom's phone. Try to start that relationship, but it's not his right to the child. It's the child's right to him. And I know it's very harsh, and it's very easy for me to say because I'm not in the situation, but that also makes it, that's why I'm saying get an outside opinion, because the courts don't, if he takes you to court, the court's not going to listen to that. The child, I'm looking for a term now, but it's escaped me. I'm sorry. The court is not going to do that choosing of sides. Oh no, but the child says that they don't want to see the parent. They're not going to listen to that. If you can get a voice of the child done, then yes. And the child, the psychologist says this child must not see this parent, but that's a whole different topic in its own. Then you can say, listen, the child shouldn't be seeing this parent, but he still has a right to see the child. But I think the more that he picks up the child and looks after them, they'll definitely also realize I can't expect her to cover all these costs. I take the child out for one day to the spur, and I've just spent 400 rand, and all she's asking for is 1,000. That calculation doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe getting him to a point where he gets an attorney, because I am the type of attorney that will tell you, don't you dare complain about paying maintenance for your child, especially when you're only paying 1,000 rand. I'm sorry, but that looks in proportion, and it looks in proportion to your income. It looks in proportion to the needs of a 14-year-old who's in high school, and or a 6-year-old that has special needs. This is what kids cost. Let me write it down for you quickly, and then they have more than just you telling them it's expensive. But yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, we got another one here. It's basically the same question. We got Bianca von Meyer asking that maintenance and visitation is two separate things. What if one parent wants visitation with the child but is unwilling to pay? So that's basically the same.
It is two separate things.
Yeah, we've got Stepheney Jacobs asking here, what happens if only one of the parents is working?
This is a very difficult thing, especially currently. A lot of people have lost their work and or jobs and employment, and but the courts have taken quite a strict notion on this point, saying that if one parent has to undergo debt, and so I've had to go and borrow money, then keep the proof of that, because then the other parent needs to go and borrow money. And like I said, the claim never falls away. So just because they can't pay now, or they can't pay for the next year, I know it sounds very scary, and that's a terrible situation to be in, but they still owe you for that year. So when they do get their job, that needs to be paid back. And yeah, the maintenance, the right to get that maintenance paid back to you doesn't ever fall away. And like I said, it is the child's right. So as long as the child is there, they're going to have that right, and the parent needs to pay.
I'm glad to hear that, because, the thing is, if my husband's not working, or ex-husband, I'm still going to feed my kids. I'm going to borrow, steal. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make sure that my children have a safe place to live, that they've got food, that they get schooling. So, just because the other person isn't working, it doesn't mean that they can just say, well, the child can starve.
Well, I know what a lot of people also do in the end is say, okay, cool, you don't want to give me the money, so let's split the care and contact. 1 week with me, 1 week with you. Then we have exactly, except not for school fees, but most of your shared expenses are then exactly in half. You have to pay half of your rent towards the kids, and I have to pay half of my rent towards the kids, type of different situations, but for an example, then your costs are down the middle, and I don't need anything more except school fees from you, because you have to feed them half the month, I have to feed them half the month. It's equal. If you're not in a position that you want to do that, there is one other option. You can claim maintenance from parents of your spouse, but that is a very, very touchy subject. If the parents are willing to maybe take the kids from you on a basis of, every second weekend, come and look after your grandchildren and save me some costs over a weekend, or, can you drive the kids to school or something like that? I don't really want families to break up over maintenance, but the option is there. You can also use that one.
Wow, that goes seriously sticky.
Very, very, the idea is to keep children out of conflict. So you don't really want to cause more conflict by fighting with grandma and grandpa. It's normally the kids, love their grandma and grandpa. So you don't want all of a sudden, Mom, why am I not visiting there anymore? It's a messy situation.
Okay, so now we've got Lance Johnson. He's asking, his mom's been going to the magistrate court for a decade to get his father to pay maintenance. He works at Parliament, and it's staggering how they claim difficulty with the court order.
I love South Africa. The court systems are fantastic. We must keep in mind where we are, and these processes can take long, which is why I say going to the magistrate's court and asking for assistance can save you costs, but it's not necessarily going to save you time, because you go to the maintenance office, which is the start of your maintenance claim, and you can sit there for 9 times, and you just sit there, and then I walk in, and So, hey, what are you doing here today? Oh, I've been here 9 times. And I'm like, hey, did you know you can request them to move you to the court now? And they're like, no, nobody told me that. And it's just, I'm like, no, don't worry, I'll help you quickly. I'll tell them to transfer you over to the next step, because the person never pitches up. But that, like I said, if you're getting to that point, you know that the costs are going to be paid back, or costs are going to be against them. Because, I mean, for a decade, that just proves that they're obviously trying to evade paying. I mean, that just sounds like somebody I'd like to go after.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can go after them. Perfect.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a very shame. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. So we've got Bianca. She wants to know, can maintenance amounts be lowered if there's proof that the child's needs have lessened?
Yes, of course. Yes. Let's say, for instance, your child was going to Kiro, and all of a sudden you put him in a public school close by, so then petrol's less, and school fees is less, and school outfits and what do you call them? Uniforms, is less. All of those things. Then yes, and if once again, if there's already a court order, then you're going to need to go to court and say, listen, it's less. But it works the same way. Yes, it can.
Perfect. And we've got Mo saying that forcing someone to pay maintenance is a daunting exercise. I'm grateful I've never experienced it, but I've seen the stories and my heart bleeds.
It is daunting, and it is a terrible, I don't know, I know the attorney hates to ask for money, but I don't like to ask people for money. I just want it to be like, there's an agreement, to just pay. What's the issue? But
Yeah.
I do know that for some people, this is a very, very touchy subject. They don't understand why kids are so expensive. I've had clients that literally have said, well, come pick up the kid, and until you pay maintenance, don't bring them back, so that you can see how much this costs. And I was like, are you sure you want to do that? And she's like, this is how serious I am. She needs to understand that this is how much this costs. And taking the child out for spur that costs 400 Rand is unacceptable. I can use that to pay for his extracurricular activities because he's fantastic at cricket or whatever, or she's a good swimmer or good at piano, and those costs can go towards bettering that skill or something. I don't need you to buy a toy worth 1,000 Rand and think that covers maintenance for the month.
Yeah, I mean, look, even food. I mean, my 7-year-old probably eats 3 times what I do. And he's such a slight little guy. I don't even know where it goes. But he eats more than me.
No, food is difficult because you think, okay, cool, no, well, the baby's only a month old. They don't eat that much. Go buy some formula, Not everybody is in a position to breastfeed.
If you want to be a breastfeeding mom, you want to see how much you eat. I had to eat like a crazy person.
I'm hoping that helps with weight loss.
Ate like crazy. I couldn't stop eating, and I just kept losing weight. And I got thinner and thinner because he just it was bad.
Well, the weight loss sounds fantastic.
I put on 14 kilos, 14, when I was pregnant with him. And within 3 weeks, I'd lost that 14 plus 5. That's how much he ate. He sucked the soul out of me. I was 55 kilos. And I mean, I was weak. And then I quit smoking and I put on 20. So now I'm like chubby chap.
Oh, no, man, you look beautiful. Don't say that.
Yeah, no, I'm cool. We've got Lance Johnson asking another question. If a parent is in arrears for years, can an attorney fight that money be taken from the provident fund?
And this is exactly one of those debt collecting or those attaching of a debt of a third party. You can go to court and say, that there's this money due, that it's with this, and definitely you can definitely go that route. Like I said, that arrears is it never falls away. So definitely, go for it. I think that's a great idea.
Perfect. Great. We've got Peachy asking, what happens in the case where I'm not good with money and I get maintenance, but I want more money for my ex? Does he have to support me and my child, or just my child?
Sorry, I need to read that again. What happens in that case?
She wants to know if she's
not good with money.
If she has not got enough money, can she get maintenance for herself only? For a child only, or is it her and the child?
Oh no, maintenance is only for the child. Please make sure that you get your maintenance order with regards to spousal maintenance during your divorce. If you don't get it, then you can never get it again. So make sure that that is in place when it comes to support for you. Unfortunately, if you're not good with money, once again, this happens a lot in mediations where you sit with clients and you go through all the expenses, and at the end of it, you're like, did you realize that you're in a deficit? Did you realize that you're going over budget every month by 200-300 rand, maybe even 1,000 rand? And I know a lot of clients, and then I have to sit down and I have to be really rude and be like, you have to cut expenses. You can't have DSTV anymore. You can't have, you have to cut down on your extramural activities. You have to cut down on your gardening services. And your car payments or pocket money and gifts and stuff, because you're going over the red, and then work out your maintenance according to that. But yeah, no, if you feel like you're not having enough money, definitely please approach somebody and calculate it again, see if you actually need more. But if you know that his income is, for instance, I know that actually a lot of women, a lot of my clients earn more than the husband does. So in the end, technically they need to contribute more than the husband or the ex-spouse will in that situation. But yeah, no, the court will definitely also ask you to look at your budget if you are finding it that you don't have enough money. But if it's literally because the child's school is 3,000 and he's only paying you 1,000 a month, then something's not right and he needs to pay more.
I've got another interesting question, and this is probably going to be very much in the gray area. So, for example, my children are not in aftercare, and I choose to earn less because I work from home, but I choose to earn less to have my children at home. So technically, I'm actually being a caregiver for that period of time, and I have less income. What can you like add that in somehow into your thing, or does that not count? Must you then just put your children into aftercare and then he can pay for that?
Yes, that does not count. I have actually had.
It's so expensive. You save a fortune. That should be included. You must mention that to the people.
Yes. Well, during that time, you would come down to food and all of that. But if you're going to court, that would be a very difficult topic. But you can have a chat, and I know during a divorce or during these discussions, when everything's, I almost want to say, raw emotion, these things are difficult to discuss. But I do know that within a year or two, people kind of get over the emotion. There's somebody new. Yeah. They've lightened up a bit, and you can go to them and say, listen here, this is I don't work in the afternoon because of this and this, and I'm saving us both money. And if for that reason I was hoping, or I was thinking, can we increase the maintenance with this or this to pay me for that extra little bit that I look after the kids? But if we don't, I'm going to put them into aftercare, and you're going to have to contribute this much so that I can make this much money. And that is worth my while. But it's not going to be worth your while because I'm going to increase it drastically. That type of thing. And then can we have a chat about it and see if you can sort that out?
Yeah, because I wonder if that's something that other women have got, because, like I've said to my husband, if I could work mornings and afternoons and also school holidays, because if your child is in aftercare, when it's school holidays, they can go to school and be in care. So basically every school holiday, every public holiday, every afternoon, I'm at home with the children, so I can't get work done. I could literally double my income if I put them in aftercare, and the amount of money I would earn in comparison to the amount of money I'd pay for aftercare would be like huge.
Oh yeah. No, well, that, like I said, definitely
a thing for me that anyway, that's just a private.
But in that example, then do it. If you know you're going to make quite an exponential amount more money, and you are in a divorced situation where your monthly expenses have gone up now all of a sudden, then go and do it, and then tell them, sorry, they need to go to, unless you want to come pick them up and look after them during that time and you cannot work. This is gonna happen now. That's the new normal. The kids are just going to go and play with their friends a little bit longer, and that's the new normal, that you just have to pay for that aftercare.
It's a tough choice, because I don't want my kids in aftercare. I want them at home. But they drive me batty and I can't work.
I must say it was lovely of my childhood that my mom also took us out of aftercare after a while, and realized that the income versus aftercare costs just didn't make sense, and we could stay at home with mom, and that was wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've got Faranaz asking, where visitation is concerned, if you feel that your child would be 100% safe visiting their father, how does one go about getting supervised visits in place?
Supervised visits, that's a difficult one. This is a whole different topic. If it's not safe, get a social worker involved. Family advocate can help you as well, and ask them to please go and investigate it for protection reasons, that the child is not safe there. But please keep in mind that just because you don't think the child is safe doesn't mean that the court will agree that the child isn't safe. But yeah, that is a whole different topic, and you are more than welcome to contact me directly on that. There's a lot more to say about that.
Yeah, and I see Stephanie is also asking exactly the same thing. She's got the same thoughts there. So yeah.
Well, Stephanie, if that is your child in the profile picture, then I would not suggest sending them to the father just yet. Please, children under the age of 3 psychologically cannot handle being away from their mother. So it's definitely not advised to be sleeping over. But I know I have friends who just said, nope, half and half, you get them because, you want to get a divorce. This child is just going to have to get used to, the half and half living. And I need my off time, and you need to pay more costs and whatever. So half and half. But if the child is that young, the father must understand. A child cannot, you cannot take a baby away from its mother. So yeah, every situation is different. So once again, unfortunately, the child has a right to see the father, so the father can come and visit, blah, blah, blah. But that, once again, whole different topic. We're welcome to have a whole discussion about visitation.
Perfect. Okay, we've got Mo again asking, I've learned that the only way an order can be uplifted is through another court order, even if it is an interim order. Is it true? What happens in an event where the person who ordered by the court in an interim court decides not to honor the interim order with the thought that the order has expired?
Well, that would be very silly. The interim order would obviously have a date saying this needs to be sorted out by this date. If it doesn't say that, then once again, I would say take the order to the police and tell them that this person is in contravention of the order, and they're in contempt of court. And that's that. An order is an order, be it interim or not. Until a final order is made, that order is in place. So we get lots of interim orders in court that helps with the processes and how things need to be handled during divorces and stuff. And if that has to do with maintenance, then please, yes, go. There's no such thing as an expired order. Well, not in family law.
Okay, so I'm just going to stick now with the child maintenance ones. For any questions about visitation rights and that sort of thing, you guys can contact Mariska directly. We've got Peachy asking, does maintenance only need to be money, or can it be me providing food and clothes and paying half the school fees and odds and ends where needed?
If it is agreed, which is why it's wonderful to have a round table and mediate these things. If you agree to that, and the mother says, okay, fine, I want this formula, I want this yogurt, I want this bananas, I want Woolies, this, I want Checkers, that, and then you can drop that off once a month, and then I'm fine with that. And you can pay the school directly, or you can pay the school fees to me, and I will make sure that the school fees is paid. Then yes, I think odds and ends is a very good thing to mention as well, because a lot of parents forget that there's a lot of expenses when it comes to school. Like, for instance, we have a civvies day, or we have a cake bake sale and now there's extra costs, or, oh, I'm going on a camp. And those are extra things that need to be discussed, where you say, listen, we're splitting this in proportion once again to our income on that ratio that I spoke about. So I'm going to be paying 2 parts, you pay 1. But yeah, if you agree to it, you can handle maintenance as you like, as long as it's in agreement. And if both parties is happy with you providing food, I know a lot of people want to rather do that. But on that note, if you're asking for this option because you're not sure about where the money is going, you do have the right to request proof of expenses. So give me your slips that says that you went and bought the food or that you're paying the school fees. You can request the school fees to send you proof that the school fees is paid, aftercare payments, extramural activities. Where's the school bag you said you were going to buy? I want to see it. That type of thing. You can ask, you have the right to ask, where's this money going? Because like I said, it's the child's money. You're only a custodian. You should definitely be keeping proof of where the money is going, just to save yourself a headache in future if somebody ever does ask you for proof and you don't have it.
Yeah. And Peachy's asking now also, what happens if our agreement was 2.5 every month, but he's paying more some months, less once in a while, and providing extras on certain months?
Definitely keep track of that so that you can see if he's actually catching up with these payments. Because, I mean, certain people, maybe he's working on commission. I'm not 100% sure what the whole situation is here, but perhaps he's working on commission and paying more and less in the months that he can. And when he can't, then unfortunately he's paying less. As long as you understand what's happening and you talk about it, I hope that everybody's keeping in mind that these amounts need to be increased every month, every year. But anyway,
yeah. I kind of, on that note, like from my side, I mean, obviously you're going to have the messy divorce. I think any divorce is going to be a bit messy and a bit emotional. But, I would hope that 5 years down the line, each of us would just pay what we should pay, what we're able to pay because we want to pay it because it's our kids. And just make sure that our children have enough. So, yeah.
In the end, what the court wants, what the perfect needs for children comes down to physical safety is number one, which is why I said if you have any issue with physical safety, please have it investigated. But the court wants to know that there's no conflict for a child, that they have low conflict situations. Please don't fight in front of the kids. Please don't use the kids as a weapon against each other.
Yeah.
You're not actually getting the desired result. You're not hurting the other person. You're hurting the child. So keep that in mind. I know it's difficult, easier said than done. But so that's number one, low conflict. And number two is have a good relationship with each other. So the courts actually want to see that the kids have a good relationship with the other parent. Obviously, at least one parent having a good relationship with a child is fantastic. But they want a good relationship with the other parent. And most importantly, I know it sounds horrible, but even if the child is getting some sort of example out of this other parent, whether it be a bad example, at least they know what they shouldn't be or what they shouldn't be doing, or they want to be better than that. I know that sounds terrible, but some sort of example is better than no example. And we definitely don't want the kids turning around saying, but you kept me from my father or you kept me from my mother. And in the end, it's just not worth your own mental health to fight about some of these things, because when the kids get older, it's just, they're over it and maybe move on, maybe not. Just make sure that you're there and present and supportive.
We've got a really sticky one coming up. So we've got Stepheney saying that her husband's decided to be gay. Now he wants a divorce, but he also wants his child to visit him and the other guy. She doesn't want her child in those circumstances, and she doesn't work. Must he still pay the rent?
He wants a divorce, but he also wants the child to visit him. Okay, well, divorce is divorce. Yes, well, if he agrees to pay your full rent, I would definitely in this situation see if you could get some spousal maintenance because you don't work. be it rehabilitative, which is just for a short period, maybe a year or two, where he pays your rent so that you can get back on your feet. And yeah, unfortunately, once again, depending on how young the child is, I probably wouldn't say that he's allowed to go and sleep over there just yet. But also, the father of the child needs to understand that sometimes children have certain needs and wants, and that they don't maybe want to visit you. But then again, get a voice of the child report. Make sure that that's what the child wants, or that if the child understands. Because sometimes children will tell one parent, "Oh, I don't want to go," but they're actually just trying to keep you happy, and they don't want to hurt your feelings. And they're going to say exactly the same thing to the other parent because they don't want to hurt their feelings. So must he pay your rent? If by court order, then yes. If it's by agreements, then that would be lovely. That would be wonderful. If you can get lifelong spousal maintenance from him, depending on his ability to pay. Otherwise, there is a third option. I'm not 100% relevant to this question, but there's the other option to, for now, not ask for maintenance, but you get a token or a nominal maintenance, which is a R1 for a month or for a year. And you just keep your spousal maintenance open because maybe in 2-3 years' time, you'll be very ill or you'll be on pension, and then you need that maintenance to kick in, and then they'll help you then. So they won't help you now, but they'll help you in future. But yes,
R1 a month. What?
Yes. So it's just to say, okay, well, listen, I make money now, but perhaps you're very ill, you have cancer. So right now you're employed, but in a year or two, you might not be able to work anymore. And when that happens, at that future agreed time, you'll stop paying maintenance, spousal maintenance of a certain amount. But these are very special circumstances. And sometimes just agree to get the divorce through as fast as possible, and then you can go and do the free maintenance thing at the maintenance court, because you've kept open your spousal maintenance. But if you haven't agreed to it, then it's gone. Then you can't go back.
So R1 is just keeping it open.
It's just keeping it open. But like I said, if you have something like that in place, it would normally be by agreement. So it would come into play that there's an agreement saying, listen, I have cancer. Let's just take a really bad example. And I'm fine right now. I'm working, but in 2 years' time, I won't be working. And I might need assistance paying my medical aid. Will you please pay my medical aid once I lose my job, so that I can keep my medication and I can keep my health benefits, that type of thing. So yeah, different strokes for different folks. It is possible to say that he needs to pay you rehabilitative maintenance, which is just maintenance to get you back on your feet for 6 months, a year, 2 years. I've heard it, medical aid being paid for 2 years, or just monthly amounts to help you get back on your feet until you find a job. But yeah.
Also, what I'd like to bring up, Stepheney, which is completely unrelated to child maintenance or even visitation rights, but I'm a big fan of therapy. I've had a lot of therapy. I've had lots of mental health issues. I'm an addict and an alcoholic. I've got bipolar disorder. I've been through a lot of treatment. And I'm a big fan of therapy. And just a few things, you've stated your husband decided to be gay. It's really not a decision. Someone's gay or they're not gay, or they're bisexual or they're not. It's not actually a choice. So your husband has probably been living a bit of a lie, trying to be normal and fit in. So I don't think that, I think if my husband turned out to be gay, I'd probably take it personally. and I'd be like, what's wrong with me? And I think that there's a lot of emotional stuff coming in. And we actually had a video, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on the challenges of gay parenting. Just because your husband wants to be with a guy doesn't mean that your husband or this guy is a pedophile. It doesn't mean that they're any different from anybody else. They're just people that have fallen in love. And it's, of course, you are the one that's paying the price of a broken family, which is very sad. It's very painful. But I recommend that you go on your own and go for some counseling and some therapy to help you work through this, because from the way that you've stated that you're obviously in a lot of pain, I would be devastated. And the best thing you can do for your child is to make sure that your mental health is good and that you are coping.
I
That's just,
100%,
yeah.
100% agree. Number one, when clients approach me about divorces, I say, please, or splits, just please make sure that your child gets some therapy. Let them talk to somebody else, because they're only going to tell you what they think you want to hear. Yeah, they do come out with some truths here and there, but a professional is going to be able to help them and help you explain, for instance, mommy, why don't you and daddy get back together? He says this is your fault. And I don't have the answers for that. I'm not a psychologist. And sometimes the emotions do evade me. I hear something like this, and in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my word, this is terrible. But my first response is, okay, how do we get this sorted out? How do I help you? How do I get you a result? And that's not always sometimes what my clients want. But obviously, if we're one-on-one and we're having a coffee, then I have time and I can listen, and I like to be a shoulder for my clients. But once again, not a psychologist. So you're only hearing my opinion. So I can tell you, oh no, that's terrible, that's horrible of him, but that's not what you need. You need somebody to help you and to work through that. And I really am sorry for the situation, but like Lynne said, it's just it's love, and unfortunately we have to work with it now. We can't work against it, because for the child, it's in the child's best interests that there's low conflict, and we need to make sure that you get some assistance as well, because it's very emotional subject, very emotional time overall, with the extra added weight. The child's going to need some help as well. Judgmental people out there, so
yeah, it's going to be quite the journey. In fact, I remember my mother once advised, there was a couple getting divorced, and she said, oh, you must really go for couples therapy. And they said, but we're getting divorced. We're not going to be together. And she said, you have children. You're going to be working together for the rest of your life. Get into couples therapy now and start sorting out your stuff. Yes, you're not going to stay together, but you've got to work. The sooner you can, I mean, like I say, divorce is painful. It's messy. There's going to be anger, resentment, all sorts of ugly stuff. And if you've got no children involved, get divorced, leave, and heal yourself. But if you've got children together, you are still going to be a team forever. So it makes sense that the sooner you can actually work through your stuff in a healthy way, the better it will be for your children. And I mean, I speak for myself here, but I think I speak for most parents. The number one thing in your life is your kids.
And I can speak as a child of two parents that are not divorced. And I know that low conflict, I really must say that my parents gave me a very good example of what it is like to work on your marriage. And you can see both imperfections, but you can see how they work together to work past that. And once again, therapy and talking and telling your children what's going on, that helps. And even in a divorce situation, telling your children not everything, but to a degree. Mommy and daddy still love you, but we can't live together anymore. And I know of so many people that, birthday parties, everybody's there, stepmom, stepdad, and when they draw their family trees, everybody's on the family tree. All the new plus ones, and just showing them that relationships don't always need to be romantic. Co-parenting is so important. And I have so many clients, I have so many friends that I think do it rather successfully, and they support each other and they talk. And like I said, right now, when you're going through this first step of, oh my word, this is divorce or this is breakup, and then it's very scary. Or just, oh my word, I just fell pregnant with a complete stranger, and now we have to have a kid forever. Get therapy, work through it. I told you this in a private chat, but number one most forever type of contract that I can think about is having a child. That is number one. Number two is a mortgage bond, and number three is marriage. I can get you out of that quick. But a child is forever, and it's just getting any kind of help in working with different people, different types of children, different personalities, is it's necessary.
Yeah, no, I think it's, oh, I've lost my person. Oh, there you are. Okay. Bianca wants to know if the person who needs to pay maintenance moves to another country, is there a different process attached to that?
Oh, that's a scary one.
Big one.
That's a very good question. I have never been in a situation where I've had to get maintenance like this, but that would be a very different process, and I would definitely advise you to get an attorney involved, because you would have to be looking at the other country's processes. You would have to calculate how much the need is here. You would have to prove to the court that they're not paying, that they're running away. You would still have that claim, and then you would need to find out in the other country through police, another lawyer on that side, what does your country do? Because the lawyer will save you time and tell you, okay, cool, well, if you have a claim for maintenance, this is what our law says, or maintenance and debt this is the same thing, whatever that country's law is. The wonderful thing about children's laws, it's actually quite new. It's not something that comes for thousands of generations and decades and centuries and stuff. So a lot of our countries and a lot of countries all over the world have the same children's law. So maintenance will probably be the same type of thing, and have the same weight to it, because children's rights have been so recently drawn up that, yeah, most countries it looks exactly the same, or a lot the same. So definitely that's going to be, unfortunately, I would say, in my opinion, probably pricey, but just get the right assistance. And if he's not willing to pay, then that's costs to him in any way if he's evading maintenance. But yeah, wow. Do you have a situation like that? That sounds horrible, because the child probably doesn't see their parent either.
Yeah, that's very sad.
That is very sad.
Perfect. So we've got Tessa wants to know, how do you get full custody over the child if the father does not contribute anything and he's in and out of jobs?
This is a very good question, and it does not touch on maintenance. I really want to answer
I saw that and I thought, hey, that looks like an interesting one.
It's fun. We can have fun talking all day here, but just overall, please note that the court will not just take custody away. We don't call it custody anymore. It's care and contact. Sorry if that wasn't clear in the rest of the discussion. But they won't take away technically custody of a child from any parent. Even if you are a murderer on death row, they will still say that your child has a right to chat to you, unless it is completely unsafe for the child to be with that person. So once again, looking at that situation, and if he's in and out of jobs, then the maintenance is still running up. Your claim for maintenance is still running up, and the arrears maintenance is, all of that is still there. But yeah. In this case, is the father actually still wanting to see the child?
Yeah, there's not a lot of information. I mean, it sounds like, how do you get full custody over the child? So it sounds like she doesn't have full custody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no. I think a lot of the times what a good way to cut your costs is to say, okay, well, if you can't pay maintenance, then you're going to have to up your visitations. And I know, once again, I've seen this happen where they say, okay, cool, well, you want to cut your maintenance, then now you need to come and pick up the kids every Tuesday and Thursday nights and feed them and bath them and take them to school the next day. And there the child benefits because they see both parents a lot more, and both parents are a lot more involved in aftercare activities. And, I'm going to pick them up, I can just as well go watch the netball match. All of those things come into play, but a lot of the time to down your requirements for money is to just up the visitation and say, okay, well, if you don't want to pay, then come and fetch them and feed them and find out how much that costs.
Can you drop them off for a week with only one set of clothing so the other parent has to go buy stuff?
I know a lot of parents that have this.
It's very intricate, I was thinking, okay, so they stayed with the one with the ex for like half the month and with the mother for half the month. So he buys the clothes. He
Clothes and a lot of those things.
like, you know, you
Yeah.
can only get sick when you go to your dad.
Oh, that is a whole different topic about kids coming back sick. But yes,
dear.
technically, I understand the method behind it. No, I'm not going to tell you to do it. But no, don't do it.
I haven't experienced it, but if I ever get divorced, I'm going to do a blog post on how to like best wangle your.
No, yeah, no. Technically, what you could do, I know some clients they have like an Ackerman's card or a Woolies card, you know, whatever Pep, whatever fits your budget, and you can go and buy the clothes on there. I know kids grow out of clothes very quickly, but I also know, oh, I've bought them something new, sent it with them to the other spouse, to the other parent, and now it's it hasn't come back again. I've never seen it, and now once again they're out of clothes, and I have to go and buy it again. So these are nitty gritty things that you don't really want your attorney to get involved. But I would just be adamant and say, "Where's that pants? Please bring it back right now, or give me the money back. Here's the slip. I just bought it. Give it back." It comes down to just being really forceful and knowing that you can ask it back. You can definitely ask it back.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got just two more questions left. They're not really child maintenance related, but it's just two. So Peachy's asking, can I refuse my child to stay by his father on weekends if he has a small living space?
No, unfortunately not. If it's an unsafe living space, and if I'm allowed to make an example of, let's say it's in Younger, in a little shack, and you don't want to send him there because you know that there's shooting at night, then yes, you probably have a very good reason to refuse it. But once again, he can take you to court, and you'd have to go and explain it. But yeah, if your child is that small, I wouldn't let them sleep out over weekends in any way. But if you want them to actually, you know, once again, every situation is so difficult. I feel like I have to keep I have this disclaimer, you know, keep running and being like, but yeah, no, you can, there are reasons to refuse kids to go to live with the other parent. But just because it's a small living space doesn't mean that it's necessarily unsafe. He might, you know, they will still be fed, they will still have a place to sleep, and they will still have some alone time with mommy or daddy, whichever way it goes. And that's once again, number one is to have that relationship and to keep the relationship going between parents. Always have to keep the child's interests number one.
Perfect. And then you've already answered this, but Charlotte's just asking again, what age is right for the child or children to sleep over? She's got a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
So I'm just going according to what I've been taught, according to, you know, a few psychologists and, you know, a small little spectrum of what I've read up on it. But normally the age is from 2 to 3. You can start having one-night sleepovers, and the child can have 2 different permanent homes. Before that, you would say, okay, no, listen, you know, mom is permanent, number one. But it also depends on the child. Some children adjust easier than others, and others don't at all. Some mothers, unfortunately, don't adjust at all. So you need to, unfortunately, check your situation, check yourself, and see, is this me that has a problem, or is this actually the child? But when it comes to sleeping over, if it's not something that's happened before, do it slowly but surely. Don't just shock the child. And I have found that a lot of fathers understand if you explain it to them. They haven't seen you in a few months, or they have never slept over. We're going to sleep over one night so that the child knows they're coming back. We don't want any children with separation anxiety because all of a sudden they're going away for a week and they've never done that before. But if the child's okay with that, then it goes to your personal situation. In the end, you are the mum. You know, do what is in the best interests of your child, but do keep in mind, is it in the best interests of my child, or is it in my best interests? And unfortunately, got to just be a spade is a spade. You know, got to call you out. Got to check up on yourself and check up on your why you're doing certain things.
Perfect. Awesome. Mariska, thank you so much. This has been really informative, really amazing, very helpful for a lot of people. I'm very excited about this video. Do you have anybody that you would like to choose as the winner for your free family law consultation?
I'm horrified because I do not.
Okay.
I have not written down any names. I was just so focused on answering now that I was thinking, oh my word, you're about to ask me, and I have not.
Well, I took note of Lance Johnson. He's the one where you said, I really would like to help this person.
Yeah, the one that's been working on a decade already, and
Yeah.
that is that question. Yes, I
Okay.
think that did sound like something that I'd want to help. If she's been struggling for so long, I would definitely like to help and get involved.
Perfect. Okay, congratulations, Lance Johnson. You have won a free consultation with Mariska to try and resolve this sticky situation that's been going on for a decade. I really hope that you make a big difference. I have absolute faith that you will. Lance, I can't remember if you were on my Facebook page or on YouTube, but you can email me at Lynne@Kaboutjie, and then I'll put you in contact with Mariska. Yeah, you can just inbox me or email me, or if you don't, later I will come and find you and get you. Sometimes people log off at the end of the video and they've gone off, so I've got to go find them. And then just a reminder to everybody, it's always best to at least have a consultation with an attorney. So you can phone Mariska or you can email her, and the details are here on the banner, and I will also add it onto my blog post.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I had a lot of fun today.
Yeah, have a great weekend. And once again, Mariska, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity. And I hope I can help a few more people figure out maintenance.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.